Morning everyone, another lovely sunny day. So today's vlog we're going to talk a little bit about hip flexor strain. So your hip flexor is the muscle that comes from your back through your tummy down the front of your hip and then sort of merges in to the adductors and the quadriceps. So if we're going to talk about hip flexors, we need to know a little bit of anatomy. So this is your spine, can you see that? Nice and close, okay. These are your nerves, okay. That's your disc. And these are your little facet joints here, okay. So your psoas comes through the spine. It starts off on the spine here in your upper lumbar vertebra, and it goes through the pelvis down to the front of the hip, okay. Can't really do a lot in there, it's actually quite deep. Some people say they can palpate it. I think it's very tough. I think it's a lot, you know, it's a long way through your abdominals. So so what do we do if our hip flexor is tight? Why is it tight? If these joints here aren't extending and are stuck and they're not rotating, then the top end of the hip flexor can't move, okay? So it's actually really important that you understand that, because you can stretch and stretch your hip flexor till you're blue in the face. However, if these joints aren't moving, it's not going to be able to give from its top end, right? So if we think about the cause of it, have you done more downhill running? Have you done anything that's taken your back into a little bit more extension than it should do? So extension is that backwardly in position. Have those joints got a little bit jammed? Have you just done too much running, and can you, have you lost some of your extension? You know, you can try it. We've done some of this. You can try it. You can just sort of lift up and just think, oh, it's a bit stiff in there. Or you can just try, in this position, lifting one leg up and then lifting the other leg up. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? My right leg's much tighter. I blame that on Nelly. Had me sprinting yesterday, which has definitely tightened up the right side of my back. All these different things we keep doing. Anyway, so that's a couple of little tests to see if your hip flexor is tight. It should be the same to lift one leg up behind you as it is the other. If it's tighter on one side and you feel it in the back, that's where you have to start, okay? Obviously you've got your normal hip flexor stretches, which we'll come on to towards the end, but that's what I want you to understand. We've got to understand where it's coming from. If we can understand where it's coming from, we can start to sort out the problem. So we've talked about lots of different causes, running downhill, just too much running in general. It could just be, Andrew was out sawing wood in the garden. It could just be that, he's done too much of that, and it's that rotation that's locked up his facet joints. So they're stuck, and that's then translated to a tightness into his hip and his quad when he's running. Because if those joints are tight, the nerve that supplies the front of the hip and the leg is also stuck and tight. So it's a bit like, when you've got a sort of tight hamstring, and it's that nervy tightness that you just think, I can't stretch that out. Okay, so what can we do about it? So the first thing is, let's have a think how we can release it a little bit. So if I just go onto my side, okay, I can get in to what I think, and maybe right, maybe wrong, but what I think are my the edge of my, it's not really the facets I'm going on to, it's the sort of transverse process really. So I'm actually going on there and I'm just giving them a little bit of a movement. Okay, if your back's stiff, it likes movement. It likes movement in those joints, okay? And you can just start getting them moving a bit. Some of you might just think, oh, it just feels like soft tissue. Just relax down and just see if you can just get in a little bit deeper, okay? Now, I know a lot of my athletes will know this one. And if you've got something like a ball, even a couple of cushions, you could then just put yourself over the ball and you've just opened up that side a little bit more, okay? And you just think, oh, there you go. I can actually feel it's a little bit harder in there now. And, you can just get yourself in there, relax down as much as you can, bit of a stability test as well, and just see what those muscles are feeling like. It's like, crikey, they are really tight in there, and loosen them up a bit, just go on to each one and just mobilise it. So all I'm doing is I'm using my thumb and I'm just pushing down a little bit, all very gently. And if everything's quite acute and you've got a rip-roaring acute sort of you know, quad pain, nervy, really strong nervy pain at night, don't try these, you know, because you need to be, I'm sort of going through running injuries, and I'm actually trying to give you ownership of your body. However, I'm not trying to show you how to treat a really acute injury, okay? This is just ways to loosen you up, just to prevent things. And you know, and if you're not sure, just message me. That's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. Okay, so so that's the first thing, is we've just released the joints a little bit. The second thing is we need to then think, right, how can you see me? How can we just do a nerve mobilisation like we did with our, so if we remember, with our lower back, that's our nerve mobilisation. Lots of other ways of doing it for the lower back as well. So, right, so I'm going to go onto my side, okay, move the spine out of the way. I'm going to curl up a little bit. Can you just about see me? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring that leg behind me, okay, and not all of you are going to be able to do this, okay, and then I'm just going to just take that knee gently up and down, okay. Now it's a relatively comfortable position for me, and you just do it 3 lots of 10. Okay, so we'll just try that onto the other side, see if you can get a better view. Okay, so what we do, we go onto our side, we curl up, okay, we take that leg back, stay in the ball, and we just take it up and down. Okay, so what have we done so far? We've mobilised the origin of your hip flexors, we've released the nerve that's supplying the hip flexors. So then what we can do is we can just go to the muscle, okay? So I'm sure you all know lots of hip flexor stretches, and if you've got a hip flexor strain, these are probably what you've been trying to do. However, it's probably just not been released from that top end. So before you try your stretches, try those other 2 things first. So classic hip flexor stretch, on one knee, leg up in front of you, holding the tummy and the back still, because if you move that bit, you're just moving the origin, okay? And then you just go forwards and you just hold it there. And if the pain's a little bit further down the leg into the quad, bring in the knee flexion stretch, okay? And just hold it there. Okay, then so you've done those, you've released the back, the nerve, the muscle. Go back down, lie on your tummy and think, right, when I lifted my leg, it was really tight. And actually, straight away, mine's a little bit better. I haven't done much work to it, but it's just released it. So if I'd have just done hip flexor stretches then, I know that my leg would not have felt better in that position. So that's just a little bit of a process you can go through. I would imagine most of you are doing number 3. Lots of you aren't doing number 1 and 2. Okay, so that's your hip flexor stretch. Obviously, if you've torn the hip flexor or the quad, then you need to just start loading it. And again, it's really gentle loading. Start off with 2-leg work. You can start off with your, just your little mini squats, your 1-leg dips. It's really important to get control of the pelvis. What we normally find is the hip flexor is overworked because the glute's not working, okay? So you need to go back to all our glute and hamstring exercises, reload that lower back, and actually just think, gosh, if I'm doing my glute bridge, what's working? Have I got my glutes switched on? If I'm doing plank, have I got my glutes switched on? Or am I using my hip flexors just to hold on? So what you find is, if your glute's not working, your hip flexors overwork, okay? So revisit your core, revisit your glutes, everything goes back to your glutes, because the glutes are the muscles that should be doing most of the work when you're running. All these other muscles should be there to give you the movement and just to give you the fluidity of running and the strength. They shouldn't be there to give you the stability. If your stability isn't here from your pelvis, then all these extra muscles, your TFL and everything, are going to be overworking, okay? The one thing we haven't mentioned, but we've gone through it loads in the foam roller and other things, is your TFL. The nice way of releasing that is, I haven't got the foam roller down here, is to just get yourself on the foam roller. There's a foam roller under there, and just release this fleshy bit down here. Okay, so really that's hip flexor release in a nutshell. Any more questions and anybody got any sort of persistent problems, give me a shout. But I think that they would be my starting point. Find out, what's going on. Do your test first, lying on your front, then mobilise your lower back, then mobilise the nervous system, then release the muscle. You can foam roller into the quads as well, that's all absolutely fine. You know, have a little think what's going on in the hip as well. That's another little option, okay? And you know, you think, can I sit that way? Okay, yeah, and my hips feel, you know, both feel quite good. Can I sit that way? Oh, actually, it's not as good that, sorry, you can't see. I haven't quite got the video in with sussed yet with the tripod. So, and it's like, gosh, I'm much tighter in that side. So actually, you know, you could actually just sit and just have a little play, you know, with your hip flexors. And I'm mainly into my TFL there. And just see, right, can I actually get my pelvis to sit round in that, on that side? And you know, you will all find you'll have a much better way, you know, no problems in my right hip, you know, I can sit very comfortably. Left hip, it's like, do you know what? I think my hip's probably sat a little bit far forward on that side, and you know, everything's a little bit overworking. I know my left side overworks because it's the side I've had my ACL done on. But you know, so you could just do a little bit of release, just rocking forwards and backwards and just holding onto that muscle, just letting it just go, and just think, right, let's just take that into that range. And you know, and you can feel this, you know, when you do your hamstring stretch, when you go into this position, and you just think, oh, I can't go that way. Go back the other way and just think, I can turn that way, no problem. So you know, all these little factors you can just sort of play with and just work through. But really, that's sort of where I start. That's my starting point, you know, with the sort of hip flexors. Get back and strengthen that glute and that core. And yeah, give it a go. Any problems, give me a shout.